Welcome back to We Are Soccer. It's MLS Round-Up time. And today, as normal, we have Brooks Laimbeer Scout with us, MLS Scout. My friend Brooks, how you doing, buddy? You doing all right this weekend? Coming off of Labor Day today?
Yeah, I'm good. Enjoying the day off and, caught up on the soccer a little bit today. I had to catch up on some games, but it was an interesting weekend with international play and then, MLS kind of mixed in. So,
Yeah, it's the MLS, the only league that continues right through the international break. All the other leagues in the world take a week and a half break or whatever it is, 2 week break, and MLS continues right on. Not all the teams played, so not everybody was in action, but some games for us to talk about here, and lots of soccer. I think there were nine games in MLS, and then countless amount of international games. I know you did too. Kept up on the U.S. men's national teams and their draws. And there were a lot of others as well, but let's just jump right in, buddy. Let's kick it off with New England Revolution at Philadelphia Union. That game ended 1-0 to New England. Kind of an exciting game, man. What were your thoughts on that one?
yeah, I think for starters, let's look at Philly just playing. Let's see, Harrell, McGlynn, Sullivan, Paxton Aronson, Brendan Aronson's little brother.
Mm,
Um, And then, the young guy that's not a Union Academy kid, but it's a young guy that was playing a little bit for the U.S. Youth National Team, Leon Flox. So, starting a lot of young guys in that lineup. And I think, Aronson showed some moments. Obviously, Shabilko is always very dangerous at the center forward position. Sullivan's shown very well, to be dangerous around goal, and he scored some golazos, his little bike against Chicago, and he scored some other golazos in this year. So, Philly playing the kids. And I think that was the thing we talked about in last week's show is who's going to play their kids. And,
yep.
Philly stepping up with some of the guys over on international duty. The Revs losing Buska to the Polish national team. So that, Edward Kiza, the forward from the University of Pittsburgh, who they drafted this past draft, gets to step in and play with Bunbury up top with them. But Brandon Bai and Dwan Jones, two Michigan natives, doing well in the match. But this was an interesting one. 40th minute off a free kick, Matt Poster to the back post, hard run to the back post, slip taps it just in, beats his defender and taps it in. And then a little craziness. This game got very chippy. It got very chippy, and it got very seemed like personal, but it's a typical Northeast match, against a couple of teams that, from the Northeast. So, but I think the interesting part was, in the 59th minute, the Revs going down a man with Traustason, getting that red card. And then the last 30 minutes, New England kind of have to play in with 10 men, but it didn't really look like they were playing with 10 men, to be honest with you. They kept the ball. They still had chances. Carlos Hill had a chance to come in off his injury and play a little bit at the end, which I think people were a little surprised about, but New England showed, and listen, that is why they were on the top of the Eastern Conference, and they have just broken 50 points. The first team to break 50 points in MLS. So Bruce Arena getting it done, and let's not forget the Henry Kessler moment at the end of that game where he kicks the ball away and he throws the ball in the stand on the ball to the on the stands. So and listen, Henry Kessler, just people don't know, is for the draft, our group, we do research on players, and I was researching Henry, and he's actually a very smart kid. He graduated high school in 3 years. His sister's very smart as well. I think she went to an Ivy League school. He graduated high school in 3 years, and then he graduated from UVA in like 3 years as well. So this is a smart kid, but he's got a little grit and nastiness to him. So, that's a good combination right there.
Yeah, that was one of the funniest things I've seen in a soccer field in a long time. The ball is going out of bounds. He just hammers the ball into the upper deck as it's going out of bounds, and there's a ball boy standing there with a ball, and he just takes it out of his hands and throws that in the stands as well. And that sparked it off a little bit. The Union weren't too happy about that.
Yep.
That's one of the funniest things I've seen in a soccer field in a while. The Union, they'd only lost once at home all season. Now all of a sudden they got 2 losses, and which puts the Revs 10 points clear of its nearest rival in the Supporters Shield race. So New England just getting the job done. No matter what it takes, they seem to be able to get it done, and they're on a roll, man. So good for them, right? They could be primed as a run here at the MLS Cup. So they're in good shape compared to a lot of teams out there.
Yeah, I mean, and again, in MLS, you need depth, right? So you need depth, and everyone knew there was going to be international play and World Cup qualifying. So having that depth and having guys step in like Kizza, um, Polster stepping in playing well, McNamara, Bunbury, like these are experienced MLS guys, along with a draft pick, just stepping in and doing their role. Even if they don't score, have an assist or whatnot, they're still doing a role and they're still helping the team get the win. So that's just how it is in soccer. The bench has to step up and make big plays at times and fill in for the starters. And, it adds up at the end of the season, right?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Another game that was pretty interesting this past weekend was Columbus at Orlando City. Daryl Dike, U.S. men's national team player, who's not with the U.S. men's national team as they're on a 3-game run here of World Cup qualifying games, but he's back with Orlando City. He gets a goal and assist. This has kind of been a strange year for him, a little bit of stop-start with going to U.S. men's national team, playing in the Gold Cup there. He was on loan for a little bit. He's one once he gets on the field for Orlando City, he seems to score goals, and that's what he did here is put one in the back of the net.
Yeah.
And as I'm a big fan of Joe DK. I think he's a phenomenal player, and he helped Orlando City get that 3-2 win
Mhm.
over Columbus. What were your thoughts on that game, my friend?
Yeah, with Daryl DK, he picked up a knock during the Gold Cup, and he had to sit out a little bit. And I think the fans in Orlando and the fans in general of Daryl DK were waiting. Well, when's he going to come back and play for Orlando? Well, he gets his first start. He shows that he gets slipped through. He can. And the thing with Daryl is, and we've seen when he was over playing in the English Championship, was when he gets close to goal and he just decides he wants to smack one on goal. No chance for the keeper. Like it's hit so hard over your shoulder, like there's no time to react. And I mean, he can finish in the box. And as I've kind of said before, is we need consistency out of Daryl.
Yeah.
It's not just every 3 games I score a goal. Now that he's back healthy, can he continue scoring? Can he help get assists? And tonight was a good start for that. So hopefully that projects Orlando a little bit, so they can maybe try to catch New England, because they're in that second spot in the Eastern Conference.
Mm-hmm.
With the way New England's rolling, they probably won't, but Orlando needs a little momentum. Obviously knowing they're going to lose Chris Mueller at the end of the season, because he's going to sign for a Scottish team at the end. He's already signed. He's going to leave at the end of the season to go play for them. Nani needs help because he's a little older.
Yep.
But there are these guys for Orlando that Oscar Pereira trusts, that just need to step up and fill the roles. And this is a different Orlando side, because it took Orlando such a long time since they expand, they paid the expansion fee and came in MLS, that took them 6 or 7 years to finally make the playoffs until last year. So,
Right.
Orlando's in that second spot. They're looking to make a run in the playoffs. And, Columbus is going a little kind of, like this a little bit, up and down. Miguel Berry got the start last night. So like I said last week, maybe it was time for Miguel Berry to step up, because he got 2 important goals in that win against FC Cincinnati. And, Berry gets the goal to tie it. Unfortunately, Urso does a great job, hitting the first time ball that he gets from his teammate, a first time pass, and smacks it in the bottom corner of the net. One thing to note just for Orlando is that, Michigan native Adam Grinwis, who was Ann Arbor native, and he played for the Michigan Wolves, and the Michigan Wolverines started in net tonight. So good to see Adam and a Michigan native get some playing time.
Absolutely. We always like to see our Michigan kids get up and get starts in the MLS or wherever they're playing in the world. So that is a great thing. Columbus kind of find themselves in 8th position there in the Eastern Conference, 3 points out of 7th, and currently out of the playoff position. So they've got some work to do. As you said, they've been up and down this year. So they got some work to do. They got to put a string of wins together to get some points to get into those playoffs, man. If not, the defending champs are going out before the playoffs even start.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, the only other time that's happened is when Caleb Porter won it with Portland, and the following year he had the same issues with injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And so Caleb is used to this one. He understands this one. And listen, by no means are they out of it, because if you look at the Eastern Conference, it's very tight, just like the Western Conference is in that middle.
Yep.
But it's guys stepping up. that maybe don't have a lot of experience for Columbus and making things happen. And we'll see what happens. Caleb's in that staff. They have they got some work to do going into next week. So
he's an experienced coach. He'll know what to do. But he's had some bad luck with injuries this year. We'll see if he can get it done over there in Columbus.
Yep.
Next game on our docket here is Sporting KC went to LAFC. And a month ago, Sporting played LAFC and won 4-1. This time they returned and got hammered 4-0 by LAFC. Kind of a different game. It seemed like they almost showed up expecting to win an easy one again, and that wasn't. That's not really how it went. As LAFC were actually missing some players and was on a eight match winless streak. So I have a feeling Sporting just showed up expecting to win this one, and LAFC kind of took it to them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you look at this LAFC lineup, I mean, I have it written down here. I mean, listen, Thomas Romero has the guy they took out of Georgetown and bought from Philly. He was a homegrown player for the Philadelphia Union, so they purchased his rights and he became their starting goalkeeper. But you look at Murillo is really the only starter that's been consistent for LAFC. Atuesta, Blessing, they just got Arango, who's just kind of worked his way in a bit. And then Janela has been on and off for them. He usually comes off the bench. But you have guys like Ibiaga, who was a good player in USL Championship, who signed with NYCFC to get out of playing time, was just traded for before the transfer window for him to come over. Mbake is filled in. Raheem Edwards is filled in off the bench. Bryce Duke, so Duke and Jennings have been moving up and down a lot between Las Vegas Lights and LAFC since they have an affiliation. So a lot of their players move up and down. Well, I mean, that's not even LAFC's, like we talked about, full team, compared to SKC with Melia, Zuzi, Pulido, Russell, Kyrie Shelton. I mean, Espinoza. I mean, those were a lot of their main starters were in. So, I mean, it was a good one for LAFC. And I know people have been knocking Bob Bradley. They've been saying, is it time for him to go? Does it, but I think the one thing I admire about Bob is under pressure, he can figure things out. And I think he's very adaptive to the game as he's, coached for such a long time. And he listens to other people. He's he communicates all with his staff. He always asks questions like, should we put this guy in? Should we switch to this formation or whatnot in each game? Mm-hmm. So I think that's an advantage for Bob Bradley. And I think LAFC, and like I said, it's very tight in that Western Conference where they're mm-hmm. at. They're a couple wins away from jumping up into the playoffs, past the playoff line. I think Bob has the tools, and once he gets Vela back and the other guys, I think he'll be fine, to be honest with you.
Yeah, LAFC find themselves 3 points out of a playoff position, just like Columbus in the East. In the West, LAFC I think they're in 9th. Yeah. You think Bob Bradley will be able to pull this squad together? They will get into the playoffs and make a little bit of a run.
Yeah, I mean, one, it's tough to play at LAFC.
Mm-hmm.
2, Bob plays very attacking style football. If you can limit the errors in the back, which have usually cost them games. Mm-hmm. If the defenders can limit them and he can figure it out and do that, and Romero can make some saves, they have the offensive power to go through teams. And, the first couple of years, that was what everyone was always worried about, was their attacking talent was so good. Right. Now, obviously losing Rossi, over to Fenerbahce is a tough one, but, Brian Rodriguez stepped up a bit. So hopefully Rodriguez, Vela, and some of these other guys can step up and LAFC can make a little run. Yep.
And LAFC scored 2 goals this past weekend. Well, two of the 4 goals were scored by an 18-year-old Senegalese defender, Mamadou Fall. So yes, interesting. Youngsters popping up, as we talked about last week. Youngsters popping up all over the place, yes. Making names for themselves as people have departed for international duty or injuries set upon here. So another youngster there, 18 years old, popping up for Bob Bradley and LAFC. Yep. One of the other games that kind of I enjoyed this past weekend was Inter Miami versus Cincinnati. And Inter Miami kind of steal it there in the 89th. I believe it was the 89th minute with Breck Shea doing what Breck Shea used to do, I'm sure a lot of our viewers will remember Breck Shea back in the day when he break onto the scene like 10, 12 years ago, something like that. And we all had very high hopes for him. And then he went over to Europe, didn't do so much there, but he's come back and he scored a really great goal, really nice goal. Long field cross to him, took it down inside the box, one touch, headed towards the goal, and then just knocked the snot out of the thing, and gave Inter Miami a 1-0 win over Cincinnati. It was pretty interesting to see. I had a buddy who was at the game, and he said it was a really enjoyable game, a great atmosphere as well. Yeah. So, it was good to see Neville and Phil Neville and his group get a win there and keep moving forward for Inter Miami, because they got to put some wins together, man. They need to put a string of wins together to get into the playoffs, but I don't see it happening, to be honest. I don't see them doing that. What are your thoughts?
It'll be tough. Miami's been hit with a lot of stuff this year, just between the violations for having too many DPs, and they're going to lose some money next year they can't spend on players, and they're going to have to really think about how they want to organize their roster. And they just haven't had a consistent play from a lot of their other players. And, it's good to get a win at Cincy, though. I think that's a place you need to, Cincy's, it's been a struggle for them. They still can't figure it out. And, it's them and TFC at the bottom there. So it's in the Eastern Conference. Yeah.
Yeah, not so good for Cincinnati, who only have 3 wins on the season, and same with Toronto, 3 wins, both sitting on 17 and 15 points respectively. So, other games this week that happened this past weekend, Portland played Houston 2-0 there. Kind of some first half goals there for the Timbers, and they wanted to beat Houston 2-0. Any words or anything about that one, or just?
For me, I think it's a big win. It's a win, coming off a win at Seattle, and then winning at Houston. I think it's going to give the team some momentum. I think Portland was one of the teams that really didn't lose a lot of guys to international duty. So I think, this is the time where you can make up some points, and, if they can get some points again this weekend. On Friday, they play Vancouver. So, in Vancouver, I believe. So to beat your rival would be a good one, to keep some momentum going. And, and that win put them above the playoff line. So another win, and hopefully RSL falters, you get a little more breathing room. But, they're right in there, and, that's where Gio Savarese wants to be. And, I think Portland has the talent to be, at least a top 5 team in the Western Conference when everything's going right and what for them. So.
One of the other games happened was Nashville cruised to a 3-1 win over New York City FC. 2 goals from Hani Mukhtar. And NYCFC, just, I don't know, just an up and down team. I sometimes I watch them, I think, man, they play. It's so fun to watch them play. And the other times it's like, is this the same team? They're just making so many mistakes and just they look terrible. So. Easy win there for Nashville, 3-1 over NYCFC.
Yeah, I'll say this, just hats off to Nashville, because, it's tough when you come in as an expansion team. Everyone thought Miami had the answers last year and that they were going to be the one. And Nashville put together a good team last year, and they've continued that momentum. And, and they're in the top of the Eastern Conference. They're a top 5 squad. And, they have some solid players, and they've put a good squad together. So maybe they get some upsets in the playoffs, and maybe you see them playing like New England in the Eastern Conference Finals. So they're an interesting team to watch. Keep an eye on them. They have a good mixture of young guys and international players.
Absolutely right. Nashville right now sits 3rd in that Eastern Conference, 9 wins out of 22 games at 38 points. So you're right. Absolutely, hats off to them. Great season so far. Hopefully they can continue. We had 3 other games going on. San Jose lose 1-0 to Colorado. Colorado kind of score 1 goal to take that game, even though they were missing some key players to international duty, especially their center midfielder, Kellen Acosta, as we all know. So good win for Colorado there. They keep that momentum rolling even without some of their star players in the lineup.
Yeah, actually, two Colorado guys playing against each other last night. Mark Anthony Kay, who got traded from LAFC to Colorado, and Kellen. So two midfielders that share the midfield together. So that was, and Colorado, when they get back, they'll continue because they have a solid midfield. So it'll be fun to watch them to see how they progress.
Absolutely. And then Real Salt Lake beat FC Dallas 3-2 after falling behind 1-0 there. Real Salt Lake kind of just took it to Dallas, and some nice goals there from them. So Real Salt Lake 3-2 over FC Dallas.
Yeah, it's funny. Dallas can come off such a big win against Austin and scoring all those goals, and then the other week it just gets a little flipped, So it's MLS for you. There's not consistency all the time. There's a lot of parity.
Exactly, a lot of parity in this league. And the last game was Vancouver over Austin. Austin again falls short. Vancouver win 2-1. Just the winning goal here. Just some terrible defending from Austin FC. A defender kind of reaches out for the ball along the line and thinks he can win it. He misses it. Vancouver just scroll down the field. It just kind of typifies some last minute defending in the MLS, just some bad defending and a little bonehead mistake,
Yeah.
If the defender doesn't jump in and try to win that ball, that play doesn't happen and the game ends 1-1, but there you go. That's what happens when you try to do too much, as they say. So, Well, quite the roundup we've had. Not every team is in action as we talked about, but 9 pretty good games there. 3 or 4 that I think stuck out to both of us. Yeah. Upcoming, any games, anybody you're looking forward to for the next week or two to really make their mark and really put their foot down or make a move in the standings?
Yeah. Let's see how Seattle reacts after losing to Portland at home. I think that'll be an interesting one. Because they didn't have a very good game and they had a week off, obviously lose the Roldan brothers to international play, and let's see how they respond. Again, LAFC, how are they going to respond, with that one win? LA Galaxy had a week off as well. So, we'll see. They're sitting up there in the top 5. That'll be interesting. I think the bottom teams, with probably the exception of FC Dallas in the Western Conference, if they can make a run, they get Pepe and Ferreira and a lot of these other guys scoring goals, and teams falter somewhere. You could see FC Dallas maybe sneak in there. They're an interesting team. They haven't been consistent, but they have the guys to do it. So FC Dallas is probably one to watch as well. But the Eastern Conference, everything's close right now. There's really not a big gap with everything, to be honest.
It's gonna be the team that just puts that consistent run of form together, right? And the other ones just falter a step or two, and then that's it. That's what'll happen. Yep. It's a nice tight race, and like you said earlier, there's a lot of parity in this league, and it's great to see. So, Well, Brooks, thank you so much for joining again. This looks like another successful MLS Roundup from We Are Soccer. We'll be back next week with a lot more to talk about. So thank you again, buddy.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate it.
See you, man.
Yeah.